Welcome. Settle in. And allow yourself to rest. You stand where Rome has not yet learned its own name. The ground beneath you feels cool. Still. Patient. The Tiber moves nearby. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady enough to be trusted. This river is older than any language spoken here. Older than Latin breath. Older than the thought of cities. You imagine bare feet on damp earth. Early footsteps. Unrecorded. Soft. The river curves instead of cutting straight. It avoids effort. It follows gravity without argument. This bend matters. Even now. You breathe quietly. The hills around you do the same. Palatine. Aventine. Capitoline. Names will come later. For now, they are shapes. Gentle rises. Places where water drains easily. Science begins here. Not with equations. With observation. Early humans notice where floods stop. They notice where soil stays rich. They notice where animals pass without fear. You feel that noticing happening slowly. Again. Inside you. The land offers patterns. The mind learns to see them. Rome does not begin as an idea. It begins as geography. The Tiber protects from the sea. Salt water cannot rush inland. Ships cannot arrive too easily. Safety arrives quietly. The hills offer watchfulness. You can see without being seen. A simple advantage. Nothing dramatic. Nothing loud. Just enough. You imagine early fires flickering. Smoke rising straight when air is calm. Tilting gently when weather shifts. These signals matter. The body learns seasons before calendars exist. Skin knows cold. Muscles know work. Biology listens before culture speaks. Rome grows from this listening. You picture reeds along the riverbank. Fish breaking surface. Birds lifting without panic. The ecosystem is balanced. Not perfect, but forgiving. Human survival prefers forgiveness. The soil holds memory. Volcanic ash from distant eruptions enriches it. Minerals settle. Crops will one day thrive. Science will later explain nutrients. Nitrogen. Phosphorus. Potassium. For now, hands simply learn that food grows here. You feel time stretch. No walls yet. No senate. No empire. Just land deciding what is possible. Early shelters lean toward hillsides. Wind passes over instead of through. Heat stays close at night. Design begins as instinct. The brain recognizes patterns that keep the body alive. Those patterns repeat. Memory forms. Rome is already practicing repetition. The river floods sometimes. Not too much. Enough to leave fertile silt. Too much water teaches retreat. Too little teaches patience. Balance writes its first lesson. You notice how silence feels full here. Not empty. Complete. The sky opens wide. Stars appear without ceremony. Early humans map them without names. Just relationships. Distances. Movement. Measurement begins as comfort. Knowing where things return helps the nervous system rest. Rome rests here first. The hills soften sound. Voices do not travel far. Conflict fades quickly. Social science has not been named. But cooperation already feels easier. Small groups thrive when space supports calm. You sense how settlement gathers slowly. Like breath collecting before speech. Paths form where feet repeat. No straight lines. Only preference. The brain prefers what costs less energy. Rome follows that rule faithfully. Wood is gathered nearby. Stone waits within reach. Materials shape imagination. Marble will come later. For now, rough stone teaches restraint. You sit with that restraint. The land does not demand conquest. It invites care. This matters. Civilizations born from struggle hard and early. Civilizations born from balance soften first. Rome begins soft. You hear insects. Low. Rhythmic. The nervous system responds by slowing. Science will later call this entrainment. Bodies syncing with environment. Sleep comes easier in places like this. You feel it now. Nothing needs to happen. Nothing is behind schedule. The future is not urgent here. Rome will rise. Fall. Be remembered. But not yet. For now, the land breathes. The river curves. The hills wait. And you wait with them. You imagine the land changing almost without sound. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just enough to be noticed. A few shelters stand closer now. Not scattered. Not alone. Wood frames. Mud walls. Roofs shaped to guide rain away. You feel the reason before it is explained. Bodies lose heat at night. Biology remembers this. Even before words exist. The nervous system prefers warmth. It prefers predictability. So people gather. A fire burns low at the center. Not large. Not wasteful. Just steady. Flames move slowly. Orange. Soft. They do not threaten. They invite. Heat spreads outward in gentle waves. You feel it reach skin. Muscles loosen. Science later names this comfort. Vasodilation. blood moving closer to the surface. For now, it is simply relief. Fear pulls back a little. Predators keep distance from light. Darkness no longer presses so close. Night feels shorter. You sense bodies adjusting together. Breathing slowing. Heartbeats aligning. Humans are social mammals. Their biology expects others nearby. Isolation sharpens the mind. Closeness softens it. This village is learning that without discussion. Children sleep closer to adults. Older bodies rest nearer the fire. Care becomes a pattern. The brain releases chemicals quietly. Oxytocin. Endorphins. They are not named yet, but they are felt. Trust settles, homes cluster, because it costs less energy. Less walking. Less calling out. Efficiency begins as comfort. You picture paths forming naturally. Feet follow the same ground. Soil compacts. Movement becomes easier. No one plans this. It happens because bodies prefer ease. The fire needs tending. Someone wakes. Another rests. Roles appear without command. Biology supports this. Humans evolved to share tasks. A single person tires quickly. A group endures. The village feels this truth. Food is shared nearby. Simple. Warm. Digestion slows. The body shifts into rest. Parasympathetic calm spreads. You notice how voices stay low. There is no reason to shout. Sound carries farther at night. The village learns quiet. Listening becomes important. The mind stays alert, but not tense. This balance matters. Too much fear drains the body. Too little invites danger. Firelight teaches the middle path. You feel time stretching again. Days repeat. Nights return. Repetition builds memory. Memory builds culture. Not laws. Not ambition. Habits. You imagine elders noticing patterns. Weather. Animal movement. Knowledge stays close. Stories form without words. Through gestures. Through repetition. A child learns where to sit. Where not to wander. Learning feels safe here. The village does not think of expansion. It thinks of tomorrow. Enough food. Enough warmth. That is sufficient. Science would later describe this as stability. Systems balancing inputs and outputs. For now, it is simply life continuing. Bodies rest better together. Sleep deepens. Dreams soften. You sense the village breathing as one. No leaders yet. No hierarchy. Just presence. Belonging arrives before identity. You sit with that idea. Rome is not a city yet. It is a feeling. a shared fire, a shared pause. Ambition has not entered. It will. Eventually. But not tonight. Tonight, cooperation is enough. And as the fire settles lower, as bodies lean closer, as breathing slows, you feel the quiet pull towards something larger. A gathering that will soon require order, and names, and structure. When closeness begins to ask how it can last, you imagine the ground beneath your body changing again, slowly, patiently, without noise. Not through conquest, not through command, through placement. A stone is set down, then another, then another. Each one rests beside the last, touching, steady, unmoving. You feel how repetition begins to soothe the mind. The brain likes patterns. It relaxes when the next thing is predictable. Straight lines offer this comfort. A road does not wander. It does not hesitate. It goes where it intends. You sense how this clarity spreads inward. Walking becomes easier. The body wastes less energy. Feet land where other feet have landed before. Science later explains this as efficiency. For now, it feels like relief. The stones are shaped deliberately. Flat surfaces. Edges that meet without gaps. Weight distributes evenly. Nothing wobbles. The ground feels trustworthy. Your muscles respond. They release tension. Movement no longer requires constant vigilance. The road carries you. Rome is still small, but its thinking grows precise. Builders observe how water moves, how weight presses downward. They learn quietly. Physics teaches without words. A stone resists compression. It holds firm under pressure. Placed correctly, it lasts longer than memory. You sense how this permanence changes thoughts. If a road remains, then tomorrow feels closer. Distance shrinks. Travel becomes predictable. Time begins to organize itself. A journey that once felt uncertain now has rhythm. Steps count themselves. Milestones appear. Not for decoration, for reassurance. You are here. You have come this far. The mind calms when progress is visible. Roman roads do not curve for convenience. They cut through hills. They bridge valleys. This choice matters. Straightness reduces confusion. It shortens travel. The body appreciates this honesty. No guessing. No wandering. Just forward motion. Engineering becomes a language. Not spoken. Felt. Trust forms between the walker and the ground. You place weight without fear. The road does not betray you. Stone after stone, order spreads. Carts roll smoothly. Footsteps align. Trade increases quietly. Not ambition yet. just connection. Food arrives more reliably. Information travels farther. The nervous system responds to this stability. Uncertainty decreases. Stress softens. People sleep more deeply. The village begins to think beyond itself. Roads invite interaction. They allow meeting without surprise. Predictable paths reduce danger. The brain likes this. Less vigilance means more capacity to imagine. Ideas travel with bodies. Knowledge no longer stays trapped in place. You feel how this changes Rome internally. Order outside creates order within. The same logic applies. Structures mirror thoughts. Straight roads encourage structured thinking. Patterns repeat. Engineering is not separate from biology. The body responds to environment constantly. Smooth ground creates smooth motion. Smooth motion calms the heart. Heart rate slows. Breathing deepens. You sense the road extending beyond sight. Not endless, but reliable. Stone remembers where you have been, even after you leave. This memory comforts the mind. Human effort becomes visible, not in statues, in alignment, in careful measurement. Roman builders measure with their bodies. Arms. Steps. The human scale remains central. Nothing overwhelms. The road fits the walker. This balance matters. When structures respect the body trusts them. Trust accumulates. Communities rely on what holds. Stone holds. Order holds. Rome begins to feel larger than its people. Not through power. Through consistency. Every road says the same thing. You can go. You can return. Distance no longer threatens identity. Movement feels safe. And as the stones stretch outward, as paths reach farther than memory, a new question begins to form quietly, about who decides direction, and how order eventually asks for rule. You sense a change that is quieter than stone, but deeper. Not something you can touch. Something you agree to. The road still lies beneath you, steady and patient. But now there are words. They move from mouth to mouth, slowly. They settle into memory. Rules begin as shared understanding. At first, they are simple. Do not cross here. Wait your turn. Return what is borrowed. The brain responds to this gently. Instinct does not disappear. It softens. Instead of reacting, you pause. Biology allows this. The human brain evolved to cooperate. Structure calms uncertainty. You feel how boundaries reduce effort. When rules are known, decisions become easier. The mind rests. Rome learns this gradually. Disputes arise, as they always do. But now they are held by language. Words replace fists. Justice begins not as fairness, but as memory. What happened before matters. The past becomes useful. People remember outcomes. They repeat what worked. Law grows from repetition, not imposed. Agreed upon. Science later calls this social contract. Here, it feels like relief. You no longer carry every decision alone. The group holds it with you. Written words appear slowly. Marks on wood. Scratches in stone. Memory moves outside the body. This matters deeply. When rules exist beyond people, they last. Justice no longer depends on mood. Consistency emerges. The nervous system responds immediately. Predictability reduces fear. Fear reduction allows trust. Trust allows stillness. Stillness allows thought. You notice how law becomes a container. Inside it, daily life softens. Disagreements end sooner. Energy is saved. The body prefers this. The heart beats evenly. Rome does not feel controlled. It feels held. Rules do not press down. They surround. Like walls that keep weather out. You feel sheltered. Law shapes behavior quietly. Not through force. Through expectation. The brain anticipates consequences. Impulse slows. Reflection grows. This is neurological. Humans adapt to stable systems. Shared rules synchronize minds. People begin to think similarly. Conflict reduces. Not because difference disappears. Because pathways exist. Law becomes memory with purpose. It remembers for you. You feel how comforting this is. You do not need to recall everything. The system remembers. Rome begins to store itself in words. Stone held the road. Language holds behavior. Both reduce effort. Both extend life beyond individuals. Justice stretches across generations. This is new. The idea that fairness can outlive the body. You sense how powerful this is. Order now exists inside the mind. You carry it unconsciously. Rules shape movement. Speech. Expectation. The city breathes more evenly. There is less urgency. Time slows. People plan further ahead. When law exists, the future feels reachable. You feel safe enough to imagine tomorrow. This safety is biological. Reduced threat allows creativity. Rome begins to think abstractly. What is right? What is shared? Law becomes invisible architecture. You move within it without effort. The mind rests inside structure. And as rules settle deeper into memory, as words replace instinct more fully, the city begins to wonder who speaks those words, and how authority slowly takes shape. You move through the city slowly now, and you notice something different. Not stone, not law, movement. Water glides beneath your feet, unseen, traveling through channels carved with patience. It does not rush. It knows where it is going. Rome begins to feel alive. You imagine the city as a body, and the image fits easily. Aqueducts stretch like long, careful veins, bringing fresh water from distant hills. Gravity does the work. No urgency, no force, just a steady slope. And time. Your own body recognizes this rhythm. Water enters the city quietly, cool and clear, feeding fountains, baths, kitchens. It cleans without being asked. Cleanliness changes behavior. People linger longer. Illness retreats slowly. No one names it yet, but health begins to appear. The baths are warm and dim. Steam softens conversation. Bodies relax together. Muscles loosen. The nervous system settles. Heat increases circulation. Science will explain this later. Here, it feels like comfort. Bathing becomes routine. Routine becomes stability. The body prefers predictability. So does the city. Streets stretch outward like bones, supporting weight evenly. Stone absorbs sound. Footsteps echo gently. Markets pulse with steady motion. Goods arrive. Goods leave. Nothing feels sharp. Trade becomes circulation. Food moves in. Waste moves out. Sewers carry what the body no longer needs. This matters more than anyone realizes. Disease fades when waste disappears. The city learns to cleanse itself. Not perfectly, but enough. Enough for life to continue calmly. You breathe in. The air feels shared. Smoke rises, but disperses. Open spaces allow flow. Crowds thin naturally. Urban design shapes biology. People stand farther apart. Tension lowers. The body reads space as safety. Rome learns spacing without measuring it. Public spaces open like lungs. Forums allow gathering without compression. Movement spreads outward. The city exhales. You feel how infrastructure supports rest. Water means less labor. Less labor means more sleep. Sleep restores cognition. Clear thinking increases cooperation. Cooperation improves systems. Everything connects. The city begins to regulate itself. Like a body finding balance. Fever subsides. Energy returns. You notice how people move more slowly. They trust the systems beneath them. Trust reduces vigilance. Reduced vigilance conserves energy. The human organism relaxes. Rome hums softly. Carts roll predictably. Voices blend into background sound. Nothing shouts. Even the busy street feels measured. The city supports life quietly. This is biology at scale. Many bodies sharing one environment. Shared water. Shared heat. Shared rhythm. Health becomes collective. One person's cleanliness supports another's. The city learns interdependence. You feel it in your chest. A sense of being carried. The city holds you the way a body holds its cells. Individual, but supported. Public health exists here. Long before the words do. Design shapes outcome. Stone and water guide behavior gently. No instruction needed. The body responds automatically. Rome becomes resilient. Small disruptions no longer threaten collapse. Systems absorb strain. Like muscle. Like bone. The city adapts. Time passes differently now. Days feel smoother. Evenings stretch longer. You feel less alert. And more present. The city does not demand attention. It supports it. As water continues to flow. As people bathe and walk and rest. You sense the city preparing for something new. A mind forming within the body. Slowly beginning to think, you begin to notice time differently here. Not as a command. Not as pressure. But as light. The sun rises slowly. Casting long, quiet shapes across stone. Shadows stretch. And no one asks them to hurry. Morning arrives by warmth. Not by sound. You feel it on your skin before you name it. The body wakes gently. Birds shift. Markets open. Not all at once. Just enough. Time in Rome is first felt. Not counted. People look up. They notice where the sun sits between buildings. They notice how long the shade lingers near doorways. This is how hours begin. A shadow moves. Someone pauses. The day understands itself. Sundials wait patiently in public spaces. They do not glow. They do not tick. They simply exist. Stone receives light. A line appears. Another disappears. Time reveals itself through absence. Your mind relaxes around this. Nothing demands precision. Approximation is enough. The nervous system prefers this. Predictable cycles without alarms. Day follows night. Night returns the favor. The body learns when to eat. When to rest. When to gather. Biology aligns with astronomy. Rome does not force the sun to obey. It listens instead. Months grow from seasons. Planting teaches patience. Harvest teaches trust. Calendars form slowly. From watching. From remembering. From repetition, time becomes a pattern, not a threat. Festivals return each year, like familiar dreams. Your body anticipates them. Joy becomes cyclical. Rest becomes permitted. The concept of the week emerges gently. Market days repeat. The mind finds relief in knowing what comes next. Memory strengthens through rhythm. Predictability calms the brain. Rome learns this without naming it. You walk beneath an arch. Light pulls on the ground. You step through brightness into shade. Your body adjusts temperature. Your eyes soften. This transition repeats all day. Light and dark practice cooperation. Time flows through contrast. Evenings arrive slowly. The sun lowers itself. Without announcement, people notice the color change. Stone warms, then cools. Work releases its grip. Meals lengthen. Conversation slows. The body begins its descent toward rest. Sleep will come when darkness deepens. Not before. Not after. The city respects circadian rhythm. Artificial light barely exists. Flames flicker gently. They do not erase night. They honor it. Stars remain visible. The sky participates in timekeeping. Constellations shift, telling quiet stories. Navigation follows familiarity. Fear fades as patterns repeat. You trust tomorrow because yesterday behaved itself. This trust changes how the brain stores stress. Less urgency. More presence. Time becomes something you inhabit, not something chasing you. Rome grows old slowly. Years stack like stones, not deadlines. History accumulates without panic. Elders carry memory. Children learn by watching. Generations overlap. The city breathes in centuries. You feel held by duration. Nothing here insists on speed. Even ambition waits. As the last light slides behind the hills, as shadows finally settle into stillness, you sense that measuring time has quietly taught Rome how to endure. And you wonder what else can be learned by simply watching the dark arrive. You notice the land stretching farther than yesterday. Not in a rush. Not in a roar. Just in quiet, patient increments. Rivers and hills remain the same. Yet the roads reach further. They carry food, water, and people. The movement is steady. Not all at once. Just enough to keep life flowing. Rome grows, but the earth does not notice. Trees sway. Animals graze. The seasons continue. Expansion is measured by supply. How much grain can travel? How many carts can cross a bridge? The army moves as much as the infrastructure allows. Maps are drawn. Borders are outlined in ink. The ink does not boast. It records. Space becomes known, and knowing it reduces surprise. A new province is added. Citizens arrive. Merchants arrive. Officials arrive. All slowly, in order. Nothing is spectacular. No one shouts that the empire has grown. Growth is absorbed by the land and the people. Supply depots appear. Warehouses line the roads. Waterways are surveyed. Ships carry food along calm rivers. The work is continuous, yet it is gentle. The expansion is like a breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale again. Logistics are the quiet pulse. Soldiers march, not with fury, but with reliability. The rhythm matters more than force. Roads are maintained. Bridges repaired. Grain stored carefully. The pulse of a city far away depends on this. Maps are consulted. Not for conquest, but for stability. A legion stationed in one place will remain fed. Nothing is forgotten. Supply chains stretch like calm veins through the territory. People feel safety rather than fear. The city does not need to shout its dominance. Its existence speaks softly. The movement of carts and ships is predictable. Nothing surprises the mind. Order emerges naturally. Even conquest begins to feel like routine. A village agrees to taxes. A small town accepts new officials. Borders shift in ink and on paper. Yet the land itself changes little. Expansion is in plans, not in drama. Maps are studied carefully. Routes are chosen for efficiency. Every hill and river is considered. Nothing is left to chance. Rome learns that control comes from structure, not from force. Even armies follow calendars. They march and rest according to the sun. Supplies arrive before need. Preparation becomes protection. The world seems quieter this way. No sudden victories. No grand parades. Only quiet movement. Only measured growth. Citizens do not cheer at every border. They simply continue living. Merchants measure coins. Farmers plant and harvest. Children learn from repetition. Life proceeds. Rome's reach becomes a series of routines. Even governors manage affairs methodically. Letters are written carefully. Reports sent slowly, but consistently. The empire grows in patience, not in noise. History may one day notice the borders, but the borders notice nothing. They exist quietly. Expansion is absorbed into daily life. The rhythm of the empire becomes like a heartbeat. Not dramatic, not urgent, just steady. Trade flows. Rivers carry timber. Roads carry grain. Information moves on the same pace. Nothing is lost. Nothing is sudden. The mind rests inside the routine. Even ambition learns patience. Rome understands that power is not performed. It is maintained. Boundaries are respected, because supply chains are respected. Order is the unseen force. It is more enduring than celebration. You can sense this from afar. From hills. From rivers. Even from the quiet fields beyond the city walls. The land remains still. Yet underneath, movement continues. Like blood through veins. This movement requires attention. Not for glory. Not for spectacle. Just for continuity. The empire practices itself in repetition. Every day follows another. And another. Soldiers rest. Merchants count. Officials record. Nothing accelerates too fast. Borders shift like gentle shadows across maps. Not with pride. Not with alarm. Only with persistence. The empire stretches itself carefully. Its body is patient. Its growth predictable. Nothing surprises it. Nothing startles it. This kind of expansion feels like breathing. It is inevitable. It is quiet. You notice that Rome's strength comes not from noise, but from the soft persistence of structure. And you begin to imagine what this careful entrance might teach the generations yet to come. You notice how a single conversation can travel farther than any soldier. Not through force. Not by marching. Just by speaking. A merchant tells a neighbor. A traveler carries a story along the river. Words move lightly, like leaves on a gentle breeze. You can follow them without hurry. Stories are not weighed down by armor. They bend around obstacles. They cross hills. They pass through villages. They arrive before armies do. And sometimes they arrive instead of them. Philosophers sit quietly in the shade. Their questions are gentle. Their words are considered. No one hurries them. No one interrupts the rhythm of thought. A citizen listens. Another asks. And slowly, understanding spreads. Not in a rush. Not in clamor. Ideas settle like soft dust over stone streets. Even the marketplace feels their presence. A baker hums a phrase from a poem. A child repeats a story overheard from the teacher. Beliefs begin to shape how people walk, how they greet, how they arrange their homes. Ideas move like water. They carve paths quietly. Sometimes they pool in one place. Sometimes they trickle along narrow paths. You notice how stories can bring comfort. They answer questions that armies cannot. They reach a mind before a sword can reach a town. A farmer pauses, thinking of a phrase he overheard while tending vines. A craftsman hums a line from a philosopher as he smooths clay. The rhythm of work becomes intertwined with thought. Ideas become tools. They guide without commanding. They do not shout. They do not demand attention. They move gently, persistently, quietly. Even when the city expands, even when borders shift, ideas remain. They do not rely on walls. They do not require maps. Their travel is measured by curiosity, by the willingness to listen, by the quiet patience of attention. A poet writes on parchment. A teacher recounts a story in the evening. A traveler repeats it to someone who has never heard it before. And it is carried further still. Time softens the edges of these ideas. They settle into culture, into routine, into the way markets operate, into the rhythm of baths, of fountains, of streets. Even silence holds their presence. A pause in conversation carries meaning. A shared glance echoes a lesson overheard days before. Ideas persist because they are remembered, because they are told, because they are considered. You can feel this persistence, like a river moving beneath stones. You do not see it all at once, but you know it is there. Stories do not need a messenger with armor. They need only someone who listens, someone who thinks, someone who allows a thought to unfold slowly, carefully. Beliefs begin as small sparks. They are soft. They are fragile. Yet they spread. A single concept shared at the forum can settle in dozens of minds by evening. A single story shared at a fountain can echo through neighborhoods by sunrise. You notice that the spread of thought is patient. It does not compete with the noise of the city. It floats above it. A philosopher's question may linger in a room after everyone has left. It waits, softly, for someone to consider it. Ideas travel in unexpected directions. Sometimes they change form. Sometimes they are misunderstood. Yet they continue. Like a river finding new channels. Even conflict cannot fully halt them. Even war cannot erase them entirely. A lesson learned by one mind can survive the collapse of walls. The city itself becomes a vessel for ideas. Stone, mortar, and road carry more than people. They carry meaning. They carry questions, softly. Beliefs settle in the rhythm of daily life. In markets, in baths, in quiet homes. They teach patience. They teach observation. They teach reflection. You begin to notice the subtle influence of ideas. How they soften fear. How they guide decisions without force. How they shape daily gestures. Even children carry them unknowingly. Even as you walk through empty streets, you can sense the accumulation of thought, layered over time like soft sediment. Ideas, like gentle waves, lap quietly at minds. They do not rush. They do not demand. They simply arrive. And when received, they expand quietly. Sometimes they outlast buildings. Sometimes they outlast empires. They are patient, persistent. You notice that Rome is as much shaped by these travelling thoughts as by armies or stone. Every citizen carries a part. Every conversation contributes. Even a pause in attention matters. Ideas move more fluidly than supply lines, more flexibly than borders. They weave through the rhythm of life, softening the unknown, making space for reflection, and teaching the mind that understanding can travel further than power, even as the empire itself continues to grow around them. You notice that even the grandest structures wear slowly. Stone streets settle into themselves. Baths leak in small, patient ways. Walls shift imperceptibly over decades. Nothing snaps suddenly, even when it feels like it might. The city exhales slowly. Its rhythm becomes quieter. Markets hum at a softer pace. Fountains drip a little differently. Soldiers march with less precision, yet still move. The aqueducts carry water, but more carefully. Every part has learned to adjust. The empire itself breathes, gently and evenly, like an old body. Administrators notice small fractures in systems. They do not panic. They adapt, where they can. Trade flows more cautiously. Coins are counted again and again. Taxes arrive steadily, not aggressively. Even the harvest seems slower to respond. Yet life continues, quietly. People eat. Children play. Artisans work. The forum still holds voices. Nothing is as loud as it once was. You observe how attention shifts from expansion to maintenance. Houses are repaired instead of built taller. Bridges are patched instead of replaced. Roads are swept, cleaned, monitored. The mind begins to understand that care is a form of control. Even as influence wanes, systems endure through attention. And yet, biology hums softly beneath it all. Diseases move differently. Flora and fauna adjust to shifting urban rhythms. Animals find spaces once occupied by people. Insects, birds, and small mammals inhabit quiet corners of the city. Nature does not hurry. It adapts. It reminds the living that limits are inevitable. Empires are no exception. Even the largest walls cannot prevent time from moving through them. Even the strongest armies cannot halt decay. You notice how gradual these changes are. Not sudden. Not catastrophic. They are measured. Like the slow shifting of a riverbed. Like the way sunlight erodes stone. The once bustling streets become a little softer, quieter. Shadows lengthen in ways they did not before. A statue may tilt imperceptibly. Columns settle. Tiled roofs shift in their beds. Water trickles into small cracks. And still, the city breathes. Life continues. People learn to work with the new pace. Trade reroutes itself gently. Communication slows, but does not stop. Even stories adapt, the old myths blend with new experiences. They teach that change is not always violent. It is patient. It waits. It grows in the spaces between. You notice the contrast between what was built and what endures. Some structures survive because they were built with care. Some crumble because they were rushed. Some lessons last because they were repeated. Some knowledge fades because it was ignored. The city, in its decline, becomes more human, more biological. It reminds you of yourself, of the body slowing with age, of muscles that do not stretch as far, of joints that need attention. The mind notices how systems compensate for loss. When one aqueduct fails, another carries the water. When one road cracks, merchants find another path. When leadership shifts, communities adapt. Even without centralized control, life continues. You begin to see decline not as failure, but as transformation. Change arrives incrementally, softly, like a tide. The empire is a living organism learning to pace itself. Decay teaches patience. It teaches observation. It teaches humility. You notice that no one notices all of the change at once. It is only by looking back that patterns emerge. The empire slows. It loses edges, perhaps, but it does not vanish suddenly. It shifts. It adapts. It reminds you that all things are impermanent. And yet, even in this impermanence, continuity remains. Life pulses softly through streets, through homes, through baths. Ideas travel on roads now quieter. Stories are told in whispers and in echoes. Children still learn. Artisans still shape clay. The human rhythm continues. Even when ambition softens, curiosity persists. Even when power wanes, culture carries forward. The city teaches a gentle lesson. That slowing is not failure. That survival requires adjustment. That systems, like bodies, have limits. And that attention, care, and patience allow them to endure. You notice how decay is measured. How soft it feels. How gradual. How almost invisible, until it has shaped everything. The mind can rest in the knowledge that collapse is not sudden. That life accommodates itself. And even as history continues, you realize that the flow of change has its own rhythm. Quiet, persistent, and gently guiding all that remains toward the next chapter of what is to come. You step carefully among the stones. Columns rise like tired sentinels, leaning slightly, patiently. Marble faces are worn, expressions softened. You notice how the wind moves through arches, slowly, deliberately. It does not hurry. It carries the faint scent of earth, of moss, of quiet. You run your fingers over surfaces shaped by hands long gone. They were steady, attentive, human. The stone keeps their memory, but it does not demand your attention. It waits for you to notice. Sunlight passes through empty windows, hitting walls in gentle patches. Shadows stretch lazily across floors, once filled with voices. You listen for echoes, but they have melted into the air. Even so, the rhythm of life lingers. Footsteps of animals, the whisper of leaves, the slow crawl of time. You feel how time softens everything. The sharpness of ambition, the clamour of markets, the urgency of soldiers gone. Only the quiet remains. You see how nature returns with subtlety. Vines curl along broken steps. Grass grows in cracks where chariots once rolled. Birds nest in niches where orators once spoke. Small creatures carry on unnoticed. Life finds balance in spaces humans once filled. The walls have learned to bend without breaking. They accommodate the weight of years. Rain leaves delicate patterns. Sunlight warms patches of stone. The city sleeps in its ruins. You wander, moving slowly. Every step feels measured, intentional, yet effortless. The past seems vast, but not heavy. It presses softly, like a pillow resting on your shoulder. You notice inscriptions, faint but persistent. Letters carved long ago, telling stories in a language, imagine, even if you do not read the words. Stories that were once urgent now pause, waiting. Memory lingers in the air. You sense the lives that pass through these streets. Families, merchants, soldiers, children. All movements now folded gently into the landscape. You feel how fragile and strong life is at the same time. Stone endures. Bodies fade. Ideas shift, transform, resettle. Even memory becomes layered. Some moments remain sharp, some blur into the background. You notice that this soft decay is not loss. It is transformation. A slow reorganization of everything once hurried, once important. Time, in its patience, restores equilibrium. It smooths edges. It fills gaps. It teaches stillness. You move among fountains now dry. Pools reflect the sky in shallow mirrors. Even water has paused, leaving only calm. You imagine the voices of the past, not lost, but quieted. They hover in spaces between columns, under arches, along walls. You do not need to capture them all. The city itself remembers enough for you. You notice the gardens, once meticulously planted. Now, wildflowers rise in clusters. Trees reach toward light, shading fragments of stone. They breathe gently into the cracks. The air feels older here. Thicker, softer, filled with patience. You feel how time holds everything in balance. The weight of years presses down, not harshly, but evenly. It carries stories, yet allows you to drift. Even in decline, there is elegance. You trace the curve of an aqueduct, imagining the water that once ran through. The channels are empty, but the design remains. Engineering, care, intentional preserved in form. You sense the rhythms that once sustained life here. And yet, those rhythms have transformed into something quieter. Not lost. Not urgent. Just gentle. You notice arches framing the sky. Empty spaces hold light differently now. It spills slowly over broken statues. You observe the patterns Morse makes on stone. Nature softens the geometry. It does not destroy, it integrates. Everything reshapes itself without resistance. You walk past the forum, imagining conversations once held. No one is speaking now, but the energy lingers. It feels like a pulse beneath the surface. You sense how human life has always nested within larger cycles. Seasons, weather, decay, growth, they continue without asking for permission. Even as empires rise and fall, these rhythms remain steady. You notice how easy it is to rest in this understanding. The stones hold their stories, yes, but you do not need to carry them all. Memory stretches longer than you, wider than you, yet gently accommodates your attention. You watch how birds alight on columns, how leaves stir with a whisper, how the wind curves around a wall before moving on. You imagine children chasing one another in open spaces. Their laughter is absorbed into the ground. You breathe in and out slowly, matching the rhythm of the ruins. Even in emptiness, there is fullness. A garden of time grows without hands. You notice walls that are fallen, but the stones do not feel broken. They have simply shifted, finding new alignment. You observe how this is a pattern repeated across history. Nothing disappears without becoming something else. Even silence has a texture here. It is heavy, yet soft. You notice footsteps echo in stone corridors. They are your own, yet they feel like the echo of countless others. Time does not demand that you hurry. It does not ask you to understand everything at once. You feel how this patience can enter your body. A slow settling of muscles, a quieting of thought. Even memory itself seems to slow, allowing you to notice without strain. The city is teaching you to inhabit the present, to feel the weight of centuries without fear. You notice the patterns left by human hands. Mosaics cracked, but still visible. Doors worn by generations, yet still holding their shape. Even neglect has a rhythm. You follow a pathway lined with low walls. Imagine the footsteps of traders, of senators, of citizens. They have walked here for centuries. And now you walk quietly among them. The light changes, softening the edges of ruins. Shadows drift slowly over stone. The wind moves softly through arches. You notice the consistence of everything around you. Nothing demands urgency. Nothing presses. The city and nature share space, entwined in delicate balance. You notice the river nearby, flowing endlessly. It does not hurry. It will not forget. It carries fragments of history downstream. And yet, you feel you can linger here, within the quiet. Even as centuries pass. Stone, wind, water, nature, they all keep time in a way that feels safe. Nothing rushes you. Nothing insists you remember every story. The city breathes around you, soft, patient, enduring. You notice how memory itself has softened, shaped by light, wind, and morse. Even the loudest events of the past now speak quietly. History is present without urgency. You move among the ruins, letting your awareness settle gently into them. You feel how soft time can be when you do not resist it. Everything smooths itself. Everything endures without strain. Even the stones seem to sigh lightly. The air carries stories slowly, deliberately, like a stream meandering through the centuries. You notice the balance between what is made and what is reclaimed, between what was held and what is now released. Nothing needs to be rushed. Nothing asks for your full attention. You feel how patience can be inherited from stone, from earth, from wind. The long view, stretching across centuries, teaches a quiet lesson. That endurance is not loud. That memory does not demand. That time, in its gentleness, allows everything to rest. You notice how easy it is to let go of urgency, to breathe with the city and its stones, to allow life to move soft,